I just thank you so much for being here. This is the very first event we're doing around voice, so this is all very exciting. I'm just going to start by telling you a little bit about Women Who Code Portland and Women Who Code globally. So as an organization, we're a nonprofit dedicated to inspiring women to excel in technology careers. Women Who Code is a global organization in 60 cities and 20 countries. And as an organization, we empower women with the skills needed to advance their technical careers, provide them with a community of women who believe in the longevity of their careers, and we use the power of our network to connect people to each other and to work opportunities and to other life-changing opportunities. So how do we do all this? Well, specifically in Portland, we organize a lot of different events. We are up to, I believe, about like 6 to 12 events a month. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that is pretty good. So we do a monthly networking night to connect our members to different tech companies in Portland. And during those events, we showcase women working in engineering, design, and product at those companies as the speakers, as subject matter experts. We do technical workshops such as this one to give our members an opportunity to learn new skills. We do study nights, which is also to learn new skills, but also to just like work on side projects within a small group or pair program. We have a yearly IoT hackathon. It's a weekend-long event to just play around with hardware. We do several community events, which are really like social events. We've done a mentorship program, which we will do again in 2019. And then we also offer free and discounted tickets to conferences, various events around town and in the Pacific Northwest. And we have a Slack and a newsletter to keep everyone connected and aware of all of these lovely events and opportunities that are going on. So specifically in Portland, we were founded on June 10th, 2014, and we have organized, actually, at this point, 300 events. And we have a thriving membership and quite a lot of new leaders and volunteers. And you can see some of it. Please wave your hand if you are on the leadership team for Women Who Code Portland. Thank you. So this is our team. And then in terms of how you can join, this is our meetup link. You can join our Slack community again, and then we're on Twitter, Instagram, Medium, GitHub, you know, all the fun social networks. And I would like to welcome Hannah, our Skills Development Manager, to talk to you a little bit more about what we have coming up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for making it out tonight. So our upcoming networking nights, we have one at Cambia on November 14th, a tech holiday party, December 14th. Our next study nights are Cupcakes and Math. That is on October 7th. JavaScript Intro to Vue is on October 10th. We have our Design and Product Study Night on the 10th, and Open Source Hacktoberfest is on the 18th. And next we have Keely to talk a little more about open source.
Great, thanks, Hannah. So just a quick show of hands, how many people here have actually contributed to open source before? Oh, okay. So for the friends watching the live stream, we had about 2 hands go up, and we have quite a few more people than 2 here. So that's actually great. So how many people would be interested in contributing to open source if you had the tools or resources? A lot more hands. Awesome. So we have 2 events coming up in October. There is something called Hacktoberfest. It's hosted by DigitalOcean, GitHub, and Twilio. And what it basically is if you contribute 5 pull requests to 5 open source repos, you will get a t-shirt. So we have 2 events coming up for that. The first is Cupcakes and Math. This is a very low-key, relaxed event where you basically show up, have a cupcake with people, and we'll work on some code and math. The second is actually hosted here at Mozilla. It is our open source study night where we are going to have a bunch of resources and repos and walk people through contributing to open source for the first time. We'll also have prize bags for anybody who is submitting their first ever pull request to open source. So if you've never contributed before, highly recommend you joining us on October 18th right here at Mozilla. And speaking of Mozilla, I would like to turn the floor over to Women Who Code lead and Mozilla developer Amy Churchwell to talk a little bit about Mozilla. So thanks so much, Amy.
Hello. Welcome to Mozilla. We're happy to have you all here. In case you're not familiar with Mozilla and our mission, we are a nonprofit that is committed to ensuring that the internet remains a global public resource, open and accessible for all. We are most famous for building the Firefox browser, which you should all download. Yeah, so without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Joan. Joan is a speech technologist and founder of Women in Voice, and she can best tell you more about that. So, yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. All right. I'll make sure we can all see this. I think this may have gotten unplugged. Did the HDMI cable disappear? Okay, while they're working on that, thank you, friends. Hi, my name's Joan. I'm finishing my PhD at the University of Arizona right now. I have been somewhat transitioning from an academic world to, thank you so much, to Techland, specifically in speech technology, and realized all the things that I heard about Techland I got to experience in Techland. And I realized that how much I wanted more community and how much I wanted to band together with all these amazing people I saw doing work all over the world. So last month I created Women in Voice, and I'm going to be telling you about it so you can join too. All right, so this is the schedule we've got going on for today. Khan, can I move my slides? Khan is a real person. He might be helping me out. He's not my voice assistant.
I'm so sorry, Joan. We don't have control over your slides, so it's being.
You don't have control over my slides, and I don't have control over my slides? This is a very interesting problem. Okay, I will try that again. It's always very ironic when you're doing a tech presentation and you struggle with your tech. Okay, let's try this again. Let's see if I can toggle. Oh yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay. So Women in Voice, we are an international organization founded in August 2018. I am not the only one who is excited about Women in Voice, because when I put out a leadership call, 27 women from all around the world signed up in the matter of a few weeks. So I was like, oh, I wasn't the only one, like, let's do it. And these are women from all around the world. We have people from New Zealand and India and the UK, like literally so many of them. I'm not gonna list them all. But even cooler, there are hubs of women. So there are two or three women in London, the SF area, Paris, New York, and here, Portland. So that's really exciting to me that like we're banding together and making more things. You can find us on Twitter. We've got a list on Twitter as well. Not everyone's on Twitter, I realize. We have a website and a Slack. So please join us. We'd love to have you as we grow. Specifically, our mission statement, which is not so dissimilar from Women Who Codes, is about building community, amplifying the work and talent of women. We have, you can see the asterisk, you can check out what we define women as, to provide professional development and resources specifically around empowering women and diverse people in the voice field. And importantly for me, you're not only welcome, you are valuable. We are so excited to have you here and create this future together. We have developers, engineers, designers, marketers, UX people, linguists like me, artificial intelligence specialists, voice actors. There are so many people that are part of this whole community. So if you think you're part of this community, you are probably. Also, it's not just me. This is my colleague, Sabrina Dalal. She just presented in Paris. You can see on the top. She was like, can you give me some slides? So I gave her some slides. And she talked about the Voice Summit by Amazon Alexa that happened in July, which was super fun, where you can see we had fun. And on the right, you can see the Paris team that's putting together some events coming in November. So on different time zones, there are women doing awesome things like this. Anyway, that's enough about Women in Voice. If you're interested, please get involved, talk to me. Clearly, I'm very passionate about this. But you are here to talk about voice in general, so let's get to it. Oh yeah, we're gonna have webinars soon. That's fun too. Webinars. All right, I would like to know a little bit about you. I rarely get to be on a podium like this. I'd so rather be in a community organization type thing. So I have some questions. If everyone could get their hands ready, because I'm going to ask you some questions. All right, here are your choices, and you can vote for multiple. Ready? I'm going to ask if you're a developer, researcher, writer, dialogue creator, or interested newbie. Are you ready? All right, who identifies as a developer? Awesome, lots of hands, over 80%. Researcher? Yeah. Writer, dialogue creator? Awesome. Interested newbies? Cool. Awesome. We had a lot in many, many categories, so that's really helpful for me to know the backgrounds. Okay, voice. Have you used, this is a yes or no question. You ready? Have you used Siri, Alexa, etc.? I think that's 100%. Fantastic. I'm not even going to ask the no. Cool. Very savvy crowd here. Have you used a smart speaker? So we're specifying not just a voice assistant, but specifically the smart speakers. This is Google Home. Alexa products are well known for this. Do you have a smart speaker in your life? Okay, awesome. And do you know someone who does? Uh-huh. And I knew the answer to that question because a lot of Americans do right now. So I don't know if you remember the holiday season back in 2017 when like everyone was purchasing one or giving one to somebody else. Well, Amazon absolutely saw that happening for them when their stock was, you know, growing crazily. But our current estimates, we believe that around 1 in 6 Americans currently owns a smart speaker. Clearly, that's a very affluent population, right? So a certain subset of the United States, but it's around 50 million. Which is comparable to the overall population of the country of Colombia. Like, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of smart speakers, whether they're being used or not. It's one of the questions. But today, here are the main topics I'm going to be discussing today, and then we're going to be doing some questions and discussion, and then we're going to be doing some hands-on stuff. So this is what I'm going to be talking about. Can't wait to do more of it. All right. Speech tech. How do Alexa, OK Google, Siri work? We're going to be talking about voice assistants and what that's about. Why now? This is the question I get all the time. Why is voice taking off right now? Right? Voice technologies. And natural language processing and understanding. How do we organize language for computing? So we're going to be talking about that a little bit, and then we're going to be doing a hands-on workshop together. Are you ready? Oh, yes. All right, let's do it. All right. So while I'm talking, I know you'll probably be daydreaming a little bit, and I'd like to actually focus your daydreams. Yeah. So what does it take to build a voice app? In fact, it's a lot easier than you think. So if you're interested in Alexa skill building or Google Actions, this is something that I want you to start daydreaming about what you might want to build yourself. What research could you conduct in this field? What products might you want to create? How can I write my own voice dialogues? How can this affect my future, my business, my marketing strategy, my next job, the company I want to build, all that jazz. Okay? Yeah? Maybe too much. Excuse me. All right. So voice technology, you probably know it through these products, Siri, Alexa, Echo, and Google Home. I'm guessing these are things you know about, if not have used yourself. This crowd, it sounds like we know a lot about them. So I'll move on. But we've got some really big tech companies behind this technology. Specifically, we have more and more products in the last few weeks. Amazon has sent out even more products, but these are the ones you probably know about. With the Fire TV, the Amazon Echo, the Spot, the Show. I'm really excited about these smart displays where you see you have visual things as well as the voice assistant capabilities. Currently, they're relatively inexpensive. We've got $50 to $150. And most people are using them. NPR and Edison Research just did a report, like how are people actually using said smart speakers? And most of them are listening to music. There's some news and information stuff, and also to make it easier to do things literally as your assistant is the concept. And although this is really intuitive for most of us here, I just want to step through this because this is important for the developer side. So excuse me for the ugliness of this slide, I do apologize, but I think it does a good job. Here we have the user. The user is speaking something, so we are getting input into the system, which connects to the overall system with a query, and we've got an intent. So we're assuming that the speech that the human is giving actually has an intent of what they want to do, right? This is being sent to the dev side. We're getting an actionable data back, and we're getting an output usually of sound or display. That was ugly. I'm sorry for that. Here's an example. So for example, we say, Alexa, turn on the kitchen light. Right? Your smart speaker is recording that material. It's sending it to the cloud because, privacy. And then we're activating turn on request kitchen light, which is being sent back to your kitchen light, which hopefully turned on or off. You wanted it on. Now you're freaking out if it worked properly. Anyway, that's the whole system. Yeah? Okay, so what I'm trying to say in this example is that these systems the output is not always hearing a human voice. And I think that's something really important to remember as we think about these systems, that a lot of people think that with Siri, you usually hear a sound cue on the output, but that's not always the case. All right. Other use cases, a lot of people use it to ask for the time. I certainly do that all the time. Turning on the radio, buying items. I have this very long list because I want you to think of other use cases as well. Automated services like banking, prescriptions, and purchases. Automated closed captions. Speech recognition right now is being used for a lot of accessibility stuff, which I think is super cool. Although the deaf community apparently calls this auto-craptions because they think that the closed captions currently are of a very, very poor quality. Cars, GPS navigation tools, hotels, locks on doors, automated tests, job hiring decisions. This is being used in AI to check if you speak clearly on your job application stuff, as well as immigration screenings if people are speaking languages differently. So there are a lot of different use cases that I think any one of those one could delve into and are very fascinating. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Google. So comparable price range if we're looking at that with the Google Home Mini at about $50. And then we get something like the Lenovo Smart Speaker display. Have a lot of people heard about the smart displays? Can I get a show of hands? Okay, not as well known, but I really want one. But the Lenovo Smart Display, as you can see with this little example here, the display itself is voice activated. So you might say, ooh, I would like to make a calendar event. It will show you your calendar and making the event. And so there's more visual aspects to the overall experiences, which is exactly what I want one. Okay. So Google is one of the most sophisticated speech recognizing software. Google does great things in this sphere, and this is one of the demos they showed this summer to show the world exactly how phenomenal they are at this. So now that the tech is actually working, I'm going to do a test of the tech and see if we can actually get this to go. So this is a demo that was done this summer. It's called Google Duplex. We're just going to hope that the sound works.
Background for you.
Okay.
So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now? Okay, we have at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay. So wasn't that fun? What a wonderful day to do a demo and everything works beautifully. Okay, so when this came out, I'm going to attempt, here we go. When this came out, all the social media things blew up. People were so excited. And then there was also the fear that comes right after seeing something like that, right? And I personally, these are the questions that popped into my head immediately. Sample size, exactly how many phone calls did they have to make with the assistant to get that beautiful example? They're not gonna tell us that. I'm guessing it's more than 1 or 2. Ethics, does the human know they're speaking to a voice assistant? And what are the implications related to the Turing test? The Turing test related to whether a human knows they're speaking to a human or a bot. And privacy, which we're not talking about today. But is a topic of interest. What implications does this have to Google or other companies knowing what we do, where we are, purchasing choices? I mean, I think fundamentally they always know where we are, but you know, it's extra little creepy. But as someone in the voice space, I think what's really cool about Google Duplex is 2 things. They went back and forth, right? The dialogue worked seamlessly, right? The voice assistant got the answer right. But I think the cooler thing potentially is not about the accuracy, but about how the styled delivery worked. That it sounded like a human, because if it worked correctly and got the answer right, but it sounded robotic, this would not be half as attractive. And so I think it's these phonetic things. It's called SSML, which is like HTML for voice stuff. And specifically, you can speed up speech, you can add pauses, you can do more stylistic things that I think are going to be extremely important as this field progresses. So that was Google Duplex. Thank you, Google Duplex, for scaring me and making life fun. Let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about what speech recognition is. Today is not a day about acoustics, but it is a day about connecting ideas of what speech recognition is and how we can play with natural language and computing, because this is a woman who code, you know, cross-referenced event. Cool beans. All right, so as I was talking about before, when we have speech recognition, we are taking speech to meaning. So the output is not always text. It's often text. Do you see in this little very, you know, the graphic, we've got the sound coming in, we've got the waveform, and then we've got the text coming out of it. It may be too pretty, but I liked it. But the overall concept, though, is that we have speech to meaning, and we frequently think of this as text. I don't know if this slide is helpful enough. Let's move on to the next one. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so this is a very simplified form, but on the right, we have the speech sounds. So I am currently speaking, yeah? What the computer is doing is it's making these into far smaller segments and looking at different chops into fine, sophisticated pieces. It's matching these little segments to an acoustic model to find different pieces it thinks it knows, and it's comparing it to a language model of the English language as I'm currently speaking, American English. So, and then we chunk these into words. I don't expect you to get that, but I wanted to tell you that it's very sophisticated and fun. If you want to talk about phonetics and acoustics with me later, let's do that. Okay, but let's talk about words. Oh yeah, I added more slides in because I got really excited. Okay, all right. Oh, the ordering, I messed up. Okay, no worries. Sorry about that. I'm gonna skip this for just a second and go on to the NLP stuff. I apologize, I will come back. So I want to talk about words, and I want to talk about how we organize words, because natural language processing, NLP, I think is a term that scares a lot of people, but it's actually extremely important. So when we look at speech recognition overall, and we think about how we want to build these dialogues and think about different systems, we need to be able to organize words in really sophisticated ways. And we as humans do this naturally, right? We have a word and we have lots of understanding of what that word is and its relationship to other words and how we use it and how we categorize it. So natural language processing and natural language understanding, NLU, use both of these things. This lovely diagram, thank you for McCartney for putting this online. But we have different pieces like parts of speech and syntactic parsing, as well as semantic parsing. I don't expect you to understand any of those words on that slide, but we're going to step through an example. So let's pretend we found a lot of sentences about London. I did not make this example. London's nice, but whatever. Okay, so there's this example about London, and specifically the first sentence is, London is the capital and most populous city of England and the United Kingdom. Okay. That sentence or that subsentence is tokenized into words. We have a sentence. London is the capital and most populous. Now we're going to give a little bit more information about each of those pieces. So parts of speech, maybe you remember this from middle school. This is like bringing back grammar days. That's what it did to me. I remember Mrs. Lynch. Proper noun, verb, determiner, noun, conjunction, adverb, right? We're getting some more classifications. And then we're going to get even more sophisticated. There are many, many different ways of doing this, but this is syntactic frameworks where we look at different syntactic parsing. Specifically, I love adjectives myself, so I'll focus on the adjective on the bottom right. So populous, this adjective is modifying noun, the city. The city is fine itself, but populous, there are a lot of people there, right? It's adding attributes to that noun. Okay, why is this important at all? Well, when we're computing huge amounts of words, we want to use this more detailed information to help us process more quickly and in sophisticated ways. So for example, for natural language processing, we look at the word capital and we think, okay, this is a noun, it's singular, the frequency we consider as compared to our overall database. However, for more of the language understanding aspects, we say, capital could be tagged as a location. Right? It's of a higher register. It might be more formal language that this overall database came from. There might be semantic ambiguity. Is capital related to a city? Is it related to money? Is it related to letters, like capital letters? So the ideas of keeping all these information things together, understanding the text overall, is very important. In fact, here's an example from Google tagging different pieces, tagging different words and units with things like time, with numbers, currency, email, and so forth. And here's an example. So if you asked a Google Assistant, this is their pretty example, book a flight from Los Angeles to Hawaii for less than $300. And the Google Assistant would say, you got it. And if you see in the beautiful color coding, so Los Angeles was tagged as a city, right? Hawaii was tagged as a geo-state in the United States, and 300 was tagged both as amount and currency. So when we have this information that's added, we can process more quickly and look for the content of the material. Yeah, feelings about that? All right. I thought it was aesthetically pleasing. So for the bigger picture implications, for developers looking at different data sets, as I mentioned with that example, we decided that London was a thing, and we had some examples about London. But looking at natural language processing models and comparing different languages and different dialects is something that you could do. Product integration, looking at smart displays and devices. If you're looking in smart homes, for example, if all of your queries are about music, for example, everyone is asking about playing different bands and so forth on their assistant, this is something you might need to think about within your database. Accessibility, supporting diverse abilities, gesture is a new thing. Building dialogues and use cases for different experiences related to medical, hotel, shopping, education, and games, and marketing, branding. I am not a marketing person. If my colleague were here, this presentation would all be about marketing and branding because that's what she does in the voice space. So maybe we'll do a webinar about that later. And personalities, having voices as personalities. Right, because we used to say like, oh, this company has a certain voice, it has a certain persona, but now we can literally have a person being that company, right? That voice of the company. So there's a lot of metaphors and ironies related in this field that are really fun to explore. Okay, so I covered 2 of these questions. Somewhat about how these work, why now is what I'm going to go back to, and how we organize language. I stepped through the natural language processing example because you're going to be doing some of that on the hands-on tutorial. But I'm going to go back to those slides that I skipped over and was really embarrassed about. Yeah, these ones. So I get this question from a lot of people about why now? Like speech recognition has existed for a long time, but why now is it becoming more sophisticated? Why can Google now say that the accuracy rate is most of the time over 90%? That's huge for exactly who they're targeting it for, over 90% accuracy. I mean, we all would like to obtain, right? Let's get A's on everything. But some of the reasoning behind why this has happened is this trifecta these three things that are coming together. And I see speech recognition getting significantly better even in the coming years. So we have huge processing power. I feel like the muscle behind all these things has certainly improved significantly. Big data, the amount of data that we have, if you think about how much data Google has of all of the history of all the things on the internet and all of the searches being made, the type of databases that exist are kind of mind-boggling, right? So we have huge amounts of data, and then we have neural nets and machine learning related to making patterns, right? We're seeing these really sophisticated patterns within this data set that can be processed significantly faster than they ever were before. And so that's the answer. I get nervous and I don't speak as confidently as I usually do. But that is kind of what is going on in the voice land today. People like me who are linguists get really excited about, dialects and different languages and how we can play with acoustic data. Other people get really excited about the marketing or the user experience, how you feel talking to different people. There are voice actors who've reached out to me and are like, yes, I can't wait to play that character on that other thing, right? There's so many different ways you could take this. And I just got asked beforehand about different APIs being built into different systems that you can record speech and use it on different platforms, which is really exciting. The ubiquity that this technology already has and will continue to have, everyone sees it growing. Yes. So, oh yeah, we're going to be doing Women in Voice is quite a big community online. As I mentioned, it's really international, and I've been putting out, people have been asking me about webinars and how to get involved, and designing voice experiences I just put out a poll, and that was extremely popular. I like NLP and NLU. Some people want to talk about jobs, but apparently most people are employed already, and marketing with voice is another popular topic. So if this is of any interest to you, we'll be doing more about this. Yeah, especially my colleague in Brooklyn, thank you so much. She's helping out with the webinars. Cool. So we are going to be doing some hands-on workshop content, because this is whenever I go to workshops, my favorite part is when I get to play with it and not listen to whoever's talking up front. But I'm going to take a small pause and hope that you ask some questions and we can have a brief discussion. There's a box. So you get to talk. And my awesome friend Hannah is going to use the box. So let's see. Do you have specific questions or use cases when you have a speech technologist friend in front of you who can attempt to explain things? Are there things that I've said that are of interest you'd like to talk about? I'd love to talk to you. She's coming with the box.
Gotta speak like really close into it. Oh, this feels weird. This is too big.
You got it.
Hi, I'm Alekhya. I work as a big data developer. I got a chance to work on natural language processing when I was in my master's. I always had a doubt on how you, more closer? Oh my goodness. So my question is, how do you deal with, sarcasm kind of sentences? Not you, but the algorithm that you write when you're dealing with natural language processing. How do you make your assistant or voice assistant understand that you're being sarcastic to it?
That is a great question. So you're asking about sarcasm, not my own personal sarcasm, but if we're talking to a voice assistant and the human is choosing, or the voice assistant is choosing to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
And sarcasm is when you say the words mean one thing, but the overall intonation or the type of what's being said actually means the exact opposite, or some kind of humorous twist.
Yeah,
on the
sometimes
content.
voice modulation adds a lot into it, right? Like sometimes
Yes.
you're good kind of things. You see?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I always had that question in my mind when I was working on that, but I never got to explore much now that I have a natural language friend.
Whoa, natural language friend.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing in your question is a lot about the semantics and about intents, potentially. Current voice assistants are designed to take specific intents. So I want to do X, I give you Y. They're very good at this. But I think you're talking about more as dialogue-based. Anyway, semantics and intonation are a fantastic topic that everyone would like to do better. I was recently asked about whether you can find out if someone is depressed just from hearing their voice. And it's these types of questions that are troubling and also make me laugh, because someone is deciding to code depression in certain ways, right? There are metrics of what they think that attribute is, or sarcasm. I define sarcasm as these attributes, and therefore I find them in my system or I don't find them. So it's really the way we define things and how we measure it that is the trick there. And this will happen more and more in the future, where we see, ooh, this person is modulating how they speak. You know, we can measure this in more sophisticated ways and talk about it in different ways. This person's really hyper. They continue to show these different features, right? But I don't. Sarcasm is a tricky one. Has anyone seen the movie Her? Yeah? That movie scares me so much because, well, and it's wonderful too. It's a mind thinking through different things. But the idea that we love a system or that has such personality that we could almost conceptualize what they look like, both fun and extremely problematic, both at the same time. Yeah? I'm seeing a nod. I don't know if exactly answered your question, but that's the answer I have for you. Awesome. Cool. Other questions? Discussion points? We got some hands in the back.
So you mentioned Alexa, Google Voice. I'm just curious, is there any specific company or product that you're most excited about, or like team that you think is doing the coolest stuff?
Oh my gosh. Like, can we like turn off the recording? So many people are doing so many cool things with radically different approaches. And I think that's one of the exciting things now is that Alexa, Amazon is like, let's throw all the things, let's try this and let's try that. And I don't know if they're always doing that in the most sophisticated ways, whereas Google is taking these big approaches where they're somewhat secretive and they deploy these things. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? That's so cool. And it's multilingual. Like, gosh, whew. I really see those two giants taking off in the future, and eventually Apple with Siri catching up, especially if they, purchase a startup. They could do lots of fun things. But I really see potential for outside groups to be competitors in this field, because there's so much potential for growth. Yes. Shout out to my friend Snips in Paris. Y'all are doing great work. Okay.
Hi. So I don't know if I could name a voice assistant that wasn't a female voice. And I was curious how you felt about that. Is there a reason for that? Good or bad? Thanks.
Oh my, what a topic. Yes, indeed, most voice assistants are female. A lot of people have strong feelings about this topic and how gendered, clearly, if we're seeing a strong preference for one thing, how could it not be skewed? I do know that when Apple was designing Siri, the first voice they created was a male voice. But when they started doing user testing, it was clearly apparent that was not the correct choice, and they quickly switched. Are we choosing to have female voices that we want to be our assistants? Do we prefer speaking to female things? I don't like reading the research on that because it doesn't make me happy. But there are choices. I mean, I set mine to, or my Siri, I have an iPhone, is set to a British male voice, and we talk and have fun. But your question was about male voices. There's a robot out of Germany that is a male voice. It's called CaroBot, and he speaks and does nursing. So there is at least one, but there aren't a lot. We can change that. You can all change your phones to male Siris if you so choose, or if you don't have. Anyway, it's a problematic topic. User experience, people could tell you a lot more about that. I think feeling comfortable speaking to your voice assistant is very important. And that might be related to the female aspect. Yes, great.
I can't remember who it was, but someone had done some research about the privacy aspects of knowing your voice over time as you get to know someone, and the changes in your voice can reveal things like health issues or changes in your mental state or those kind of things. I'm curious what your take is on the privacy implications of having voice assistants as part of your life.
I did mention specifically we weren't going to talk about privacy today, so I love your question. I think the other question was related to, you had a sub-question that I was listening about, related to, excuse me.
Specifically health changes.
Health changes. There is a really cool project being done, oh gosh, and I'm forgetting it off the top of my tongue, but there are people who, because of medical complications, are losing their voices, and it's really unfortunate, if you can imagine, to be in such a medical distress place where you're losing your ability to speak. And there are capabilities where you can put your voice into a voice bank and actually save your voice to be used for an automated computer thing later on, which is a really cool project. Also, you can bank your voice and like donate it to that project, which is also really cool. So I'm gonna stick with that as the answer to that question. Privacy is a problematic topic. I completely agree. Yes, did you have your hand up here? Yeah. But the people online, it's for them.
So that actually kind of ties into my question. So you mentioned pattern recognition, machine learning, and neural networks. So there's a way, like if you're in the hospital, right, to like type and then that goes to speech. But now I know, I think Google Alphabet maybe, and forgive me, I might be wrong, they're looking at ways for you to turn like your behavioral thinking into voice. Have you looked at that at all? Like, do you know what the progress is on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a really cool project being done about, they put this sensor on your jaw, not specifically related to thought to text, I think is what you're talking about specifically.
It's thought to speech.
Thought to speech.
I don't know if that is, but is that something that's going on? I thought it was.
People are talking about it. I have not seen robust material on it, so I won't be able to speak to that. But really quickly, before we take this hand, I do know there's a sensor that's being put on people's jaw, so they mumble something, and it's being recorded of what they're saying.
Okay.
So this is it's actually really ugly right now, but I'm sure they'll make it far more beautiful in the future. But that's something that absolutely is happening. Do you have something to follow up with?
Yeah.
Oh, great question. I mean, creepy and cool that your thoughts could be immediately translated to text. Yeah.
A lot of this seems to be like it's all in English. Do you see examples in other languages too? And specifically in English, like in Chinese or in Mandarin or maybe non-Western languages and stuff that have completely different linguistic structures. And I'm just wondering if you have any, like, have you seen anything cool in those areas outside of English?
High five.
Yeah.
I'm all about multilingualism. And I don't know if you know, but Google in recent weeks has put out their bilingual version for you can host 2 different languages that the Google Assistant listens to, which has been, people have been begging for that for years now. So that you could turn it on to English and Spanish. You could have English and French going on, which is important for Canadians, for example. Different languages are supported in different ways. And that's depending on who can pay for these things, where we get our databases from, less common languages around the world. My colleague works on Kazakh, so like having languages that people speak but are currently not supported as well as American English, and we have a bunch of dialects of these things. Google does the best at this stuff. Amazon is working on this stuff. This makes me think of the fact that I don't think I've mentioned the Google voice typing. Do a lot of people use Google Docs? You can speak into your Google Doc and it does really good, and you can like speak paragraphs. Have you done this? Okay, I've written this up twice because I don't think enough people know about it, but I love it. So definitely use that. And also you're giving your voice to make the speech recognizer better. I think about it as kind of an empowerment way. Yes. So try Google Voice typing if you haven't. It's awesome. Find all of its flaws related to content words. Yeah. All right. One last question. Go for it.
So you mentioned being able to bank your voice and codify it later. So my voice can be a Siri and be its own AI eventually?
Oh, yes.
Are there potential legal implications with that?
Legal implications. If you make your own voice assistant of your voice, are there legal implications?
Right. If somebody maybe codifies my voice and uses it, like when you bring speech or tape or recording into a legal setting.
Oh, yes.
Is there anything in place to like?
Is there anything in place? I know that there's research being done related, similar, but a little bit different at the University of Washington, where they have taken a mouth and they have been able to move the mouth to simulate that someone's saying something they didn't. Related to President Obama. Have you seen this? But this is also one of the reasons why this project is being done, is so we can recognize what is different from the original file. So if you're able to make it, you should be able to know how it is made when it's for mal purposes. That is related to the voice stuff, but yes? Your follow-up question?
Yeah, kind of related.
Okay.
I saw that one state passed a law that robots had to identify themselves as such.
I'm a robot, by the way.
In anticipation of them being indistinguishable. Is that a requirement now with voice recognition and all
It
that?
is not your requirement. So related back to Google Duplex, right? When I think, for me at least, I would certainly think that was a human if I didn't know that it was the Google Assistant. Google has been asked specifically about whether it's going to say, this is an assistant, or this is a robot you're speaking to, and they have dodged that question in so many sophisticated ways. They don't want to say that, but I agree with you, there's some ethical and legal implications. Absolutely. Awesome questions. Thank you so much. I'm going to close this part. Thank you very much. All right. So if we're going to do some transition, if people want to get food or use the restroom, this would be the transition point. I think we should take just 2 minutes. This doesn't mean you should leave. This means you should make friends with the person next to you. Then we're going to be doing some brainstorming and do some really cool hands-on workshop stuff related to dialogue building. So 2 minutes, reconvene. Yeah? How's it going? Thank you. I can't believe I messed up in the middle. Okay, let's see. That box is so cool. I think it works. You have to hold it so close to your face. It's water. It's just water. Not doping. Thank you. Great question.
It was that phone call about people not being able to know if they're talking to a robot. Yeah, that's spooky.
Do you want to see the second one? That was just, there were two that they showed. If we got a second to do this. Oops.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See how may I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people when?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we leave there for after 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh, no, it's not too busy. You can count for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
That was a tricky one, right?
Again, that was a real call.
I mean, look at this guy being like, yes, we did it. It was like, yeah, gotcha. It was recovery. It's true. We have someone in the audience saying that that was potentially a not correct usage, and then maybe it didn't give the correct answer, but it sounded good. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, I agree. There's lots of, when you're doing a really cool big demo, you want to make it look perfect and beautiful and not have people think whether you messed up secretly at the end. I agree with you. Okay, are we ready for some hands-on stuff? This is where you get really close and friendly to your friend next door who has a computer. And in fact, I'm going to do one of those things that, you know, people can't stand. But if you could turn to the person next to you and say hi, because this is going to be your buddy for this awesome hands-on workshop. Yes! Okay. Tuck. So I'm going to ask you to pull up a lovely website that I could have sent out earlier. I'm going to make it a bit.ly. Hey, bit.ly, I believe in you. You can have all the cookies. I've exceeded my quota. Oh, no. I've never had that happen before. Let's see. Maybe I'll post on the meetups page. Would that be a good idea? All right, so I'm giving you access to a lovely Google document that is meant for you to play with your friend. So, excuse me. Let's see this lovely event. Tuck. The very bottom, there's this thing with the comment. Thank you, Marina. You seem cool. All right, ugly long URL. All right, so that will hopefully get you to this lovely website. Bit.ly, let's see, I can do tiny URL. Tiny URL. Yeah, that would be great. Excuse me for not having this already done. I thought that I was going to do it a different way, which is why I was not previously prepared. But you all are here and haven't left yet, so I did something. Okay, the link on Meetup is working. Fantastic. Additionally, this is the tiny URL thing. It's like when you go on Airbnb and they show you the Wi-Fi password and you're like, oh no, really? Okay, so if I can get most people to that page, my concept is to give you an overview of what we're doing and then let you free to do your thing. There are some people without computers. They will find computers. Maybe you could be their friends? I promise they're nice. They're my friends. She's nice too. They're all wonderful. Okay, do all teams have access? Okay, I think so. I hope so. All right, so look at all those beautiful colors. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about natural language processing, we've talked a little bit about content words, I'm going to ask you, so we're going to watch a little intro thing, we're going to think about different use cases and content words, and we're going to think about building our own dialogues. I have another cute video, also by Google. I like them, yeah. All right.
Whether you're a global retailer or a new startup, technology is changing the ways customers interact with your business. They increasingly expect your brand to be reachable anytime, anywhere. For example, customers of Mary's Hotel Company want instant answers, bookings, support, but providing these services and doing so in a personalized, cost-efficient manner is not easy. Dialogflow is here to help. With Dialogflow, Mary can serve her customers better by building a conversational experience powered by AI. They can chat directly with her brand to book rooms, ask customer support questions, request additional services, or make small talk. To set this up, all Mary has to do is provide some example dialogues around these topics. Then, Dialogflow uses machine learning to understand what her customers want and provide the most useful response. And the best part? Thanks to Dialogflow's end-to-end solution, Mary can build, test, and launch the conversational experience on the company website, mobile app, and all the popular platforms and devices her customers are using, all in a few days. As customers engage in conversations with her brand, she can also use Dialogflow to track analytics and make improvements to the user experience. With Dialogflow, Mary's Hotel Company can serve customers however and whenever they want to reach out. To do the same, sign up for Dialogflow today.
Okay, well, excuse me for making you watch an advertisement, but the concept of it is really important for us because we're going to be pretending or stepping through that today. So I'm going to give you an overview and then release you. All right, so yes, you can also save this document so you can play with it yourself, but I've given you permissions to view it, hopefully, and not modify it. So I'm going to ask you with your group to choose a use case. I picked 3. You can, well, anyway. So we have bake a loaf of bread from scratch as a use case, add a calendar entry as a use case, and refill a prescription. Okay, so with your team, you'll be choosing one. Then you're going to be thinking about questions that might start that dialogue. I have an example related to booking a flight. So you can think about different dialogues and sentences that might be created that way. Then I'm going to ask you about key content words, what material is required to complete this interaction. Thinking about that. Personality and style, thinking about what adjectives you might want your voice assistant to be like, what kind of interaction overall you might want to have. Demographic stuff potentially. You're going to write a sample dialogue and then think about it together. Yes? Maybe? Okay, I will let you go and I'm going to be walking around and saying hi.
It's an interesting idea, though, because, okay, questions are nice, but like potentially related. Re-example could always stop of how you use that steps. Yeah. The only thing is, do you start already coding everything? Because
One of my free for lunch. Yeah, that's great. 2 hours. That's, but then the other is you said. Voice assistant is I think I just literally asked her name, so that's so. We'd be like, we thought like way outside the box, and then we didn't like skip the room. Yeah. So, where can I? It's normal. Oh, so it kind of, so I guess. So you did the thing you do into asking now. That's what I wanted to get very. Yeah, that's definitely. I would say, one moment, please, while I check. Wouldn't even ask, right? Well, that might, and that might, they would make an archive. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, really, it's like, how they ask you, like, if you immediately or. I'll say, well, is it a 1 hour haircut or can they whatever, you know, it's about, you know, how long do you need? So a lot of times. Well, I'm so excited. So a message to follow up for that number 2, please make your point for Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Oh, right. I feel like that gets really creepy, like, you're like, it's like, are you taking your medication? If not, I'm reporting you. That sounds just so creepy. I would expect not to have to come back to be able to. I'm trying to think of what I would say. What if we say when I saw that video, I was like, I love this concept. However, I wouldn't tell them. I just want to be able to tell this schedule is like everything else. Maybe I'm gonna build that. get on to you. Yeah, like it was physically like if you go to Target or you're like, oh, I'm going to listen to 5 days. So like if you're calling, you're all day events. You can Google calling and like it's like you run so how would they write it? It's still so literally like yeah. Yeah, that is true. Like, why? Why is my face shiny on the? But also, what is there to do while I'm on like exactly? I want to be there, and then like your face is all in a row. Yeah. The first time. True. Yeah. Why? I thought you meant it was like actually not a robot when we were green. That made more sense. The fact that there's anything what am I doing? I don't see the point at all. Well, there's where I think you're thinking about. I like you always I would see something right in your no, it didn't sound. I mean, it's just like it's or if it was like a triple and so she had it hard coded I was just mentioning, I would. Oh, right. Yeah, you certainly like that. And that's what they do with that. And some of the reason everything had. No, here. Yeah. And it will read it. It takes 2 seconds. But it's right here. First, I think the question is, option learning as to what do you want to name it interaction. So that would be amazing. So are we? So then what we need to clarify. My voice. Where else in the world would you go like first from what we have? So from our mind. So for the pharmacist, it's nice calling to, yeah. So. So the actual pharmacist is using it. That call, so you don't even right. Because I know the thing about your brain. I wanted to only do that though. Everything else is crazy. Of course. When we have that, we're probably gonna have robots. I think we're she's very good. Yeah.
And Google has me. Oh, I see. Yeah. What do you? Oh, no, I was just wondering. What was the title of your survey?
Oh, we've had about 5.
One of the sequels is all over. It's not just.
Tell her about the race. Yeah, there's kind of yeah. Just because it's like an actual person. Actual person. It uses fingers.
Oh, it does. Thank you. She just looked it up for us. Thank you.
Why?
I should ask.
That's different. Like, I can see it. Oh, it's like
You're okay. I wonder how much people see. But it's not. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So maybe what is like 30? What's the first song? Who doesn't make it? That's friends. What's the personality? Personality. You can tell me. I really want prescriptions. You guys can keep some of She's always there. Oh, knowledge. I wouldn't want it's too hard.
I assumed it was mine, but not I don't like
Okay, this is what I'm saying. But why would that influence where they? So then it doesn't.
Right, so the first one I get is what we are.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
Right, no, imagine. Okay, so they don't understand. Yes. Now I give better.
Ever talk to the guys about because like.
So that's. Like humans, Google's not gonna really. Search that.
What pharmacy, which is not nearly as good as
Right.
well, that, I mean.
Once it knows what you're actually. Okay, I got it. Gotcha. So that's really awkward. That's way off. Will they? Anybody can use it. Interesting. Or Google, right?
You know what? I think, I think I have tried asking Alexa to Google something. I'm just kind of like. I have. You know what I mean though, like, on Android, I just say, okay, it's just not from my home screen and see it already done. And like you were saying. No, that's fine, that's fine. No, but ask you later, because I was like cliffhanger, like, what is this?
Let it look at. It's not the way it's right. Right. Sorry, I was still kind of. Yeah. She'll say hello.
Let's see. I guess she
Wages of pay on the side of care. Like, that would be legal not a lot of them are very important. I don't know, maybe it was. Since I just range series of yeah, so I would be able to like the time. So if you left. You know what, I did that once where I went, the weekend, my neighbor, you can hear my alarm clock, and I was just thinking, oh shoot, they're gonna see me, because I left on my phone, and didn't turn off my alarm. I see. And I'm like, that's not good. Oh, God. Oh, I actually would be different. So she wants to make sure not. As I do. Yes. Oh, right. I had my first GPS in college. Oh, you had a first one? Yes. Like something Daniel. Are we really doing this? I think actually to your point that, you know, we used to be talking about practice of technology coding. I guess you could say like, issues or, yeah, like, well, there's like minor issues. It's training us. It's less likely to, because the user interface is, I mean, and so it's AI. There we go. To couch it and simply to interact with data and change it. Whereas if you're using like an online app that has a document, they're more likely to ask you to fill out a search box, like voice, okay, what pharmacy? That's not true. It's the service. What is it? Oh, I filed a refill. I think I'm would be actual. With pharmacy.
the end of our presentation. This is awesome. We've got way
Oh, yeah, you're right.
and then you have to get some that I typed like 10 times. Like a lot of times, I always forget. Yeah, but typically you also want to like
Hey, y'all. Hello. Hey. I'm not actually reconvening you, but I'm asking you, if you have not yet gotten to the last step where we have a discussion, I would like to ask you and your groups to go to this section, because I'd love to make sure that you've done the thoughts and directions a little bit, and then we'll reconvene and talk about these things. Yeah? Awesome. Thank you so much.
I think you're first to call this to which prescription. I mean, it's just like, yeah. But have you done that? Have you done? Try it out. As we did. I really ask for like it's not sorry, I'm like going back to school. I'm like, sorry, I'm like, I do those things. So that's kind of, yeah, I can, I don't think. I think it's fine. Yeah. No, I'm supposed to be at a volleyball game. So they finish conversation. That's what it is. Let's do the president. And like sometimes, like, so I know I think this is a side development where would you like to add any or would you? Yeah. I think that's Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe they should bring us some things back. Yeah,
All right, y'all. It's that time. Look at this contemplative woman and their little dots all around her. Okay, I have some discussion questions and I would love to speak with you. And the box went and did it come back? It came back. Excuse me, that wasn't an asking question. I really thought it was gone. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people did some prescriptions. I heard some baking inquiries. But overall, I'd love to hear about your impressions of building a dialogue. What was hard, what was fun, things you encountered you weren't expecting, things that were very easy. I'd love to hear overall impressions from teams. And I'm going to start with that. Who would like to start? This team right over here. And then that team. This team.
Here. Awesome. Would you like me to, do you care which topic I start with?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. I think for me, and team, you can add your thoughts onto this as well. The hardest part was coming down to the personality and how to like take the personality into actually building the dialogue. Because then you dream up your persona, you put the words that describe them. When you actually get to the conversation, it's easy to revert back to A, your personality, or B, what you've heard other voice tools say.
Yeah. Can I ask what your adjectives were or what your goal?
Oh, great. Yeah, let's go. To that.
Oh, okay.
So, next section. So the persona we chose was actually Bob Marley. To go back a little bit, the challenge we picked was for refilling a prescription. And so we're thinking like, okay, for something like that, we want someone who's really like chilled, like good vibe, like, you know, the cadence of speech that like puts you at ease. So patience was one of our keywords. Yeah. So that was our persona and the adjectives.
Well, and I think of the type of company that would choose to have Bob Marley as their voice assistant. Right, for a prescription. Maybe there are certain types of prescriptions, but think about the choice of the company to make that. I think that'd be a very interesting type of choice to be made. And you found it slightly difficult to make the dialogues with his voice in mind.
Yeah. She has an ad.
I agree. Yeah, so I don't know a ton about what, like, I haven't listened. We should have picked someone we knew a little better. That was part of our problem. But I think the idea behind it was just like when you're ordering prescriptions, typically like you're either ordering it for someone else who, you know, you probably care about and is, you know, obviously probably not in the best situation, or you're ordering it for yourself. But either way, medical issues are out of your control. And so basically giving you someone who's, you know, just very patient and kind and very, you know, like it's kind of laughable, like, but we in a serious manner, like we were wanting someone who was like very patient and kind and was going to just make you feel at ease, because like there's times where you're on the phone with someone and you're just like, you know, they're like, I need your number right now, and you barely breathe. You're like, I'm trying to find my card, and you know, all that sort of thing. And so we just wanted, you know, to basically give it a very human and like nurturing side, but then actually putting that into dialogue, because we probably took the Bob Marley thing a little far, was difficult.
That's all right, but it's nice to have a target and then try to go to that agenda. And it sounds like you thought it out really well, so that's wonderful.
And the fun part was the side conversations.
And discussing this stuff. Voice is fun, isn't it?
Discussing things like Bob Marley and what you would
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Can we go to the next person?
Yeah, definitely personality and style is I found to be the toughest one. I didn't completely, you know, get deep into that, but just imagining how can you, you know, give that feel like a real person to your assistant. How can your assistant talk to you like a real person, not like a bot? The thought of it is like, a lot convolutory. And the style of my assistant would be more lively and more interactive. Is for everyone wants that to be interactive. That's how we feel like interacting with the assistant, not like more like a bot.
Can you share some of your use case dialogues? Because you had some really good ones.
Sure. So the use case is baking a loaf of bread, because I was trying to do that yesterday. And the use cases would be, maybe I want to ask my assistant, I want to bake a gluten-free bread, which flour can I use? Or do you have any suggestions for me? And my assistant asks me back saying, yes, do you have any preference for the grain or any specific kind of grain? And other use cases like, I don't have eggs in my house. What can I use instead of eggs? And it says, you can use applesauce instead of eggs. And this source says that you can use applesauce instead of eggs. So it gives us a level of confidence saying that, okay, it's not just making up things, but there is a source that it can lead us towards. And it can also make suggestions saying, oh, you don't have eggs, but do you want to make a vegan-free, like vegan-friendly cake or something? And another use case was, how many cupcakes can I make with X amount of flour? So probably it says, what size cupcakes, it asks me back, what size of cupcake do you want to bake first? If not, you can probably bake these many amount of cupcakes, standard sized cupcakes with X amount of flour, kind of, this is what I would probably expect if I'm talking to my assistant.
And those are some sophisticated knowledge things, right? It's pulling from different sources. It's thinking about different amounts and conversions. I would like to use your assistant.
Sure.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool. How did you feel about the overall, you did some great concrete things about the dialogue, but how did you feel about making the dialogue overall? Were there things that surprised you? Hard things?
I think the whole process is surprising because I never thought I would design a assistant for myself.
Today's the day.
I did today, thanks to you. And yeah, it's not as easy as one would think that, you have an assistant, you have probably a database on other side just reading out things for you. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot of machine learning and knowledge and constant learning that involves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Thank you. Well, I like it too. Other groups who would like to share? I'm making eyes at you groups. All right, in the back.
I mentioned only because we did the prescription thing as well, but we took a completely different tact than Bob Marley. So like our adjectives for the person were careful, diligent, and precise, because we were thinking about all things that can go wrong. Right? If they're like, well, we don't have that drug, but we have this one instead. Do you want that? There's side effects, right? Those kind of things. So that was, I think, at least for me, the part that was the hardest was thinking about all the ways it can go wrong. Like the second one that you played where misinterpreting numbers and days and like what do you actually mean? And especially in a prescription context, it was like, that's life-threatening kind of stuff. Did you want to add anything?
No, I just wouldn't have a bot call a pharmacist.
Yeah, I think that was our conclusion.
Why not?
Because of the possible errors. Like what if like the medicine interferes with another medication you're taking and the bot doesn't tell you?
Wait, but it was a refill, right?
Yeah.
We assume that there was a doctor involved somewhere in this process? And the pharmacist? There are checks you don't trust. You have questions in the system is what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah.
Skeptical.
Yeah, I mean.
Would you do it online?
Would I do it online?
Order your refill online?
Yeah.
The question was asked whether she would be comfortable refilling her prescription online, but which is relatively similar to a bot experience. Because it's still the computer. Anyway, but it's interesting that is your perspective and I respect that, but I think it's also interesting to see what we're comfortable doing in different scenarios is I think the question being brought up. Yes. Mom, you need to have the,
That's where the visual
That's why I think the visual kind of display with the voice starts becoming more powerful, so you can see exactly what it thinks you're thinking. Did it get what I said correctly? All that. Because you're right, just a voice interface for a prescription, that sounds scary to me. But if I could see exactly what it got and it looks like what I expected, then I might have some level of confidence. I don't know. That's just where I would come from. Yeah. I think my observation with our exercise, we didn't get through much of it at all because we had so much to talk about. But one thing is that I feel like I have changed the way I behave to make sure it gets at me right.
Yes.
And so doing a really natural language, I don't even feel is where we're at currently. I feel like I'm constantly thinking, how is that database search going to work? How is that Google search going to work? I know that in the past I've done it this way and it hasn't worked, so I won't do it like that. So it's training me as much as I'm, it's trying to listen to me. So I feel like, I hope the designers are taking that into account, that users are being trained and helping us with that training, perhaps, maybe giving us feedback about why it didn't work or why it's working.
Maybe this is why we need user experience researchers in our lives.
Well, that's this table.
Excuse me that I know her and she's a user experience researcher. This group up front, would you mind sharing? I love all people on this team to be sharing, please.
Okay. Talk about the hardest part. Kind of related to that question earlier, but deciding a demographic for the voice.
The voice's demographic?
The personality and coming up with a name and demographic for the assistant.
Yeah.
We were doing the prescription too, and we decided on a female voice. And there's just a little, why did we do that? Like questioning that pattern.
Yeah.
If we're just going along with, a norm that's already been established, or if, is there another option?
We we also did the reverse in that the assistant was on the pharmacy side. So Jason, he came up with the name, the pharmacy assistant manager, Pam, was our voice helping whoever was refilling the prescription. So.
And our biggest challenge in building the dialogue was to think of the ways that the information is missing and the pharmacist still needs to come up with questions and inquiries to ask the person and then still provide the service. And the way we taught one quality that we put in, which made it more human-like, was the person did not have the prescription number and they did not know the name of so then the person asked, the assistant asked, do you know the drug name and the dose? And the person says, no, I know the doctor's name.
Oh.
And then the assistant was still able to look up the doctor's name, although it was not the information that it asked for, and still help the person.
With some amount of content, it could help with things. I personally know that when I had a voice or a chatbot experience where they had my phone number and they're like, you're calling from this number. Does that match with our database of something? So I think even having basic knowledge that matches up with something in a larger system can be extremely helpful. Yeah, cool. All right. I think we have one last group of experts.
We did the refill prescription, and we built a Benedict.
Ooh.
He is trustworthy, clinical, professional, British, and knowledgeable.
I can imagine him already.
But yeah, I agree with a lot of the groups. I think that we landed on Benedict pretty quickly because I think we were in a goofy mood. But it is, once you actually get down to writing the dialogue, getting voice and tone in was fairly difficult, as well as just thinking of the keywords and places where Benedict might trip. So does he need the pharmacy name and location? what type of prescription are you filling? If you just say birth control, is he going to get that? Depending on if you have orthotricycline low or a different kind of medication, do you need to be that specific? So just kind of thinking through what he's going to need to get the job done.
Absolutely. And this reminds me, actually, we're talking about dialects, right, and different interactions. I read this fascinating article about a robot in Australia that helps you with your blood draws, if you can imagine this. Pretend that there's like a little robot that assists you with getting your blood drawn for different tests. And they gave this robot different accents. And people perceived that the robot was doing a better job if it matched their own accent. Even though clearly the robot is doing the exact same task in the exact same way, but this idea that I think there are differences between dialects and prestige and so forth that are being thought out as we have a conversation. Like as soon as you said Benedict, I was like, oh, you know, someone from England, like cool. But I think these different choices between something like Bob Marley or Pam or whatnot, who you're talking to in those relational aspects of who the person is using that specific voice bot. Are there any other overall impression things that people would like to share? Yeah, please.
A thought that kept surfacing for me during all of this is just like how like you need a cross-functional team to build this. Like with anything, like you know, you need people who can do the back end, make sure all the logic is there, set up enough, like feeding the bot enough information that it's able to learn and like respond differently. But then it's like for everything you need subject matter experts and you need linguistic experts. And it's just like, it seems like such an interesting field where so many things come together and are necessary to make it work.
Yes.
Like, I don't know very much about prescriptions, and that was very evident when it came down to let's have a conversation about them.
Yeah. Right. I think it's one of my favorite things about this field is it really depends on the skill sets of lots of different types of overlapping skill sets, but that are very complementary in those teams, right? If you imagine a team that you want to build this bot specifically, it's fun to have people with different skill sets all being at the table, right? Different diverse backgrounds. Cool. Well, and the cool thing, if you scroll down even further in this document, now that you've thought this through, you can actually make yours. So I have some examples. So Google Assistant, they're called, so like apps, like making these voice assistants, they're called Actions on Google and Alexa Skills. So if you wanted to build them, here are tutorials with Dialogflow related to Google Assistant, using Storyline. My colleague just used this recently and speaks very highly of it, using Google Sheets with Amazon Alexa, so you could have these different dialogues and you could build them and practice them in a browser. AKA, you could make this tomorrow. Spend a few days, spend the weekend, make yours, think it through, deploy it. Here are some other tutorials and resources I recommend you check out with AWS. Specifically, I'd like to point you, our voice leader in London sent me all these cool ideas. She's awesome. I think it's pronounced Egel, but she has some fantastic material. Ooh, does that work? Come on, I believe in you. Yeah. So she put together some fantastic, oh, is this right? Loading content. She put together a huge number of resources. So table of contents. Basically, if you want to build these things, there are tons of resources. I just want to show you a few of them so you believe me that they're out there. Okay, this is not helpful. Well, I'm going to show you, in fact, the Women in Voice website, hey, that has both technical skill building and professional skill building, which are pages I am working on building out. Yay! Our WordPress, technical skills. So if you want to learn more about this, we have some resources. There's some phenomenally talented women all around the world working on these problems and these questions. And they're going to be putting out tons of cool webinars soon. Technical skills. It's still loading. We have a Slack group. I accidentally clicked on something I shouldn't have. Okay, anyway, I think maybe sticking with the Google Doc with all these resources. So Can anyone raise their hand to be interested in doing one in the future, building one of these to be a real bot, dial-a-bot? Yeah, we got a few hands. Awesome. Okay, well, I think this is kind of where we're ending things. There's some closing material if my lovely Women Who Code women would like to share any things, but I would like to say at least, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I heard the traffic was miserable, and I know there's some people streaming in, so thank you to those people as well, but it was just so lovely to meet you all and to have this experience together. So thank you so much.
Just really quickly, could we also get a round of applause for Mozilla for